Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Library of American Comics Television. This is our live stream direct from my house here in Vancouver, BC, and we are going to be... Here's the thing. We had a few technical issues. I had a special guest lined up, the incredible Wallace Ryan. He was going to give us a tour of our library, but we just couldn't get a few things worked out on the technology side of things. So we are going to fix that and then have him back on next week when we get that all sorted out. So... just before we start, I'm still going to have a show today, obviously, but I want you to tell me what we should talk about. Wallace and I were going to talk about Terry and the Pirates, but we're going to save that for next week. So in the chat, if you are watching on YouTube or if you're watching on Facebook, I want you to pick one of these Library of American Comics books that I have in the background here, and I'll give you, we'll talk about it, and we'll do a little bit of a walkthrough, read through. So leave a comment and let me know what you want me to talk about today. Now, I don't have all of the Library of American Comics books on my bookshelf, but I've got a fair deal of them. So we can, chances are I've got something that interests you. And we can take a look around if you want as well. So follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe and like to this video. And we will definitely appreciate all of that. I know that some of you are watching, so let's take a little trip. I'll take my webcam here and take a little look at what I have on my shelves. I've got a few Archies, a few Rip Kirbys, a bunch of Little Orphan Annie, Red Berry, Dick Tracy, Bloom County, Screwball. Way up there, whoops, I've got a Little Abner and some Superman. Star Wars we talked about the other day. Blondie, For Better or For Worse. Goat Getters. Got one volume of Tarzan over there and Spider-Man. I think we could probably find something to talk about here. Superman, all the Disney books. I've got a bunch of the Disney ones and all of our essentials. As well as over here, got some Skippy and some Starhawks. Oh, and over there we've got the Alex Toth books and another big Archie book. So, is there something that you want to have a look at? I'm going to put my webcam back up here. Sorry to you're probably getting a little dizzy. Leave me a comment. What do you want to talk about? Come on, I know some of you are out there. I'm going to have to pick something, aren't I? I'm just going to have to pick something off my shelf. Well, you know what? I think we're going to take a look at the latest For Better or For Worse. If you're not going to say anything, I'm just going to pick this one. This is the book that just came out recently, the newest volume we have so far. I am diligently working as we speak, not as we speak, but right now I'm working on volume 6. This one is volume 5. It covers a period of For Better or For Worse from 1993 to 1996. And this is kind of my favorite era of this strip. So in volumes 4 and 5, I think encompass my favorite stories in For Better or For Worse. I think it's the period where Lynne Johnson was at the top of her game with her artwork and her writing. It was all kind of coming together in a very great cohesive package. So I know if you're interested in talking about Terry and the Pirates, sorry, we're going to have to talk about that next week. But let's talk about this. The spine on there, For Better or For Worse, the complete library, 93 to 96, and then the back cover, it's got this great beach image. So this is, let's see, retails at $50 US, and you can of course get them anywhere that you can find or order books, including Amazon, Chapters in Canada. That's a Canadian book chain. Barnes & Noble, but you can also get it through your comic book store. So head over to your local comic shop and see if you can place an order for it there. I'm going to go get my secondary camera going here. Let's see. See if we can get this up here. There it is. So let's take a close inside look at For Better or For Worse. Now, this strip, in case you've never heard of it before, is a family strip. It's It's about a family called the Pattersons. They have 3 kids and a dog, and they it's just kind of their daily adventures in life. It's a slice of life kind of a comic strip. And some of you know it. I have a comment here from Steven saying I grew up on that and Bloom County and Garfield. Yeah, those are some of my favorites as well. Bloom County is also published by the Library of American Comics, and maybe we can take a look at that in some better detail in a future week. But this is our book. This is a fat book. All of them are all of the Library of American Comics are pretty fat, but this one is it has nearly 600 pages, I think. No, just over 500 pages of comics. And that is quite significant because a lot of our other ones are more, around the 300 page. But this one uses a bit thinner because just to keep the size of the book. The paper is a little bit thinner. Lynne is nice enough to draw on all of these books for me, so I got a nice sketch. That's pretty cool. Okay, Volume 5 of the Complete Library of For Better or For Worse. First of all, we have the credits, and I love that Dean puts in here the Library of North American Comics because this is a Canadian comic strip, which is nice for me, being Canadian myself. We have a foreword from Jan Elliott, writer and artist of comic strip called Stone Soup. And there's a great anecdotal story in here about how she kind of landed her comic strip, and it was kind of in part thanks to Lynne Johnson. So if you get a chance to read that, really good. Here's a picture that the two of them drew together of her character plus Lynne's character. In the essay, I do an introduction at the beginning of each one of these stories, and this one deals with a lot of the Farley saga, because Farley plays a pretty important role. If you know anything about the history of For Better or For Worse, it's he has got a great story in this that affected a lot of people as they're reading it on the daily side of things. But yeah, you can see that Lynne's drawings are just wonderfully cartoony, big round eyes, huge noses. Love the hair that kind of flies all over the place, and it's this style that really attracted me to her work because there's a sense of realism. The background is all kind of grounded in reality, but her faces and the expressions she can get are just wonderful. Here's a strip that a lot of people like when Ellie, that's the mom's name, is trying on bathing suits, and she has little April, and April just disappears. She crawls under the door, and so she has to go running through the mall after her daughter in this bathing suit that she's trying on. Great comedy, great stuff like that. This is why I love For Better or For Worse, because it takes those situations that, while I can't relate to this aspect in particular, I have had kids run away from me like this, and it's just like, oh yeah, at the worst possible moments, that's what happens in life. I also love her lettering. All of these sound effects, the different letters she gets in there. Wonderful stuff. So this is 3.5 years. Usually we'll pack like 2 years into a book of For Better or For Worse, but we've got 3.5 years worth of material here. It starts midway through 1993, and this one takes us all the way to the middle of 1996. So there's a lot of content here. Bob says, For Better or For Worse is a classic. It's a wonderful strip that effectively balanced gag strips with meaningful sketches of continuity. That's exactly right. Continuity is very important to For Better or For Worse. One of the very notable things is that these characters age in real time. So we have 3 years of a story right here. We're going to see April going from, I can't remember what age she is, like 3 years old to 6 years old, right in this one book. It's quite amazing, quite fantastic. All of these Sundays are in color, and I'm pretty proud of this because I got to work on the coloring a lot of these, either restoring color or coloring them from scratch or doing what I needed to do to make them look pretty, and I think they do look pretty. They turn out pretty nice. But yeah, each one of these, even though there is continuity and there is serious stuff that happens in these, Lynne always seems to find the humor in the gags. She always is able to pull out the funny situations and come up with great one-liners at the end. Very good stuff. Right at the very beginning here, they're doing a home renovation. And one of the things that Lynne did right around this time was she was working on TV specials, and she had to create actual blueprints for the house so that the animators knew where to place their cameras or how to do the backgrounds and all that kind of stuff. And so because of that, decided to set in stone kind of where the staircases were and such. Michael gets a job. He gets a job working at a grocery store, and that's going to play a very important role to him as he meets kind of a girlfriend here. That the whole girlfriend relationship is included in this book from start to finish. Spoiler alert, they do break up. But yeah, this is a lot of fun. So I'm going to skip ahead here a little bit. One of the other things that I want to note is that we get notes from Lynne Johnson herself in the margins. She provides some nice commentary on a lot of these strips to give us a little bit of insight about behind the scenes stuff going on, how she came up with some of these gags, just stuff that I think are really, really interesting insights into how her mind works, and just a little bit about the industry and the way comics are made. So very, very cool. If you have bought the other volumes, the first 4, you'll notice that a lot of the coloring is starting to be a little bit more, instead of flat colors, we're getting some more gradients and stuff. The 90s was a very important time in just the transition between analog work and digital work. And so now that we're getting into that phase, and if you're a fan of comic books in general, you'll know the Marvel and DC in the 90s started using digital coloring pretty exclusively. A lot of people didn't like that. Some people did. It kind of changed the way that comics worked in general, but you can see that they're starting to do that here in these comics as well. And it won't be, we'll see, we'll flip through to the end to see what the coloring looks like a little bit there as well. But let's keep on going. Once we get over to 1994, this is still 1993, a lot of the Sundays featured Farley. Farley was the family dog. He's been in from almost the beginning. I think we're introduced to him as a tiny, tiny little puppy in the very first volume, which covers the early years in the early 80s. And so by the time we get to this, Farley is an old dog. And that's the basis for one of the important stories that we have here. Here's a cool Sunday where it's just all one big long strip. She doesn't do this very often. Usually she sticks to a very rigid 4-panel setup, but this one she decided to do all one, and there's not even a border around it. So that's kind of a cool, just something different to see there. She's also very standardized with the way she composes her Sundays as well. There's always, there's the throwaway tier at the top, but then there's always the big 2-panel block at the beginning, and usually there's a 2-panel block at the end too, so that when you rearrange the panels to fit, the horizontal format, sorry, the vertical format, that it'll work as well. Let's see if we can find that. Oh, she splits up this bottom one here too. But yep, she's got the double panel and pretty much all of these. It just provides a really great establishing shot. Oh, there's one. See, I'm not making a very good case for myself. These are all great, hey? Like, how colorful. Tons of fun. You can tell this, you can see the reflection of this paper is a little bit glossy, glossier than usual. We that's not intentional. We wanted it to be a little bit more matte, but it didn't turn out quite that way. But it still looks great, and the black line is so nice and clear. I don't know if we can get up close to see, but it is really, really great. All of the Ben-Day dots show up perfectly. Really nice scans. No hint of any of the, the moire pattern that happens with bad quality scans or anything like that. This is a great one of one of Elizabeth's first dates with Anthony. We have a note at the bottom here to let you know that in these early days they hadn't really settled on Anthony's hair color yet. We could have changed it to be more consistent, but we decided to go with how it originally looked in the newspapers. So we got a note that usually he's actually blonde later on. Here's a good one of some great different facial expressions. Oh yeah, moving forward. There's Farley again. We're going to see a lot of Farley in these strips here until we get to kind of the middle. And we have this story. This is the story here, where this is another puppy they adopt. His name is Edgar. So Farley and Edgar and April are over by the river. She falls in the river, and there's some great drama. This is an incredible story, and Farley has to save her. So make sure you check that one out, because that is the highlight of this book. I'm sure if you ask anybody who is a fan of For Better or For Worse, they will remember the Farley story, because it was definitely a great one. So here's Michael with a beard and a mustache. I write about this in the introduction as well, because this signals a significant change. In this book, he goes from being a kid to an adult, and the facial hair is kind of symbolic of that. He goes off to university in this book. It's all really great. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this. This is I just love the way that she composes her strips. We never have. This is a very rare example of a static story where she uses kind of the same camera shot for 3 panels in a row. Usually she'll not do that. If you look at all of these ones, it's like, yeah, there's people talking, but it's always from different angles, far away. Even this one here, where we have the two same, but she trucks in for this panel right here, so it's not quite the same. So this one's very unusual, but at the same time, you can see that Elizabeth has a different pose in each panel, so that it's not, even though it's a lot of dialogue, it's still something interesting to look at. So that's really, really great. I love that she has such a large, diverse cast of characters as well. This is Gordon. He, I believe this is the volume. He gets married and he starts his own garage, like an automotive workstation. People can come and get their cars fixed. And he's a childhood friend. So if you go back to the very first volume, you'll see him as a little child alongside Michael, and it's just great to see these characters growing up and getting on with their lives. You mean we're not going to stop at Disney World? Love it. Oh yeah, here's Gordon's wedding right here. A lot of detail. I mean, you can see here that we have a kitchen scene, and it's not just her scraping stuff into the garbage, but like she has 2 characters in the foreground, and look at all the stuff in the background to establish that this is the kitchen. Plus we have these sound effects all crammed into this tiny little panel, but it doesn't look too cramped. It's wonderfully composed so that we know exactly what's going on. She closes the door. April reaches for her plate, scrapes it into the garbage as well, and just like, you know, this is a hard shot to do, keeping the camera low just enough so we can see April poking over because she's not tall enough to reach over the table fully. And then this panel too. What a great drawing that is. Full of action. You can hear the noises that Farley's making. Well, that's not Farley. This is Edgar. He's got different ears. Edgar has different ears. Well, let's see. There are no dust jackets on these books. We decided to, because we're already packing it with pages, it would be additional cost to add a dust jacket. It would be additional cost to add the cloth bookmark. So we decided to keep the price down. It's still $50, even without those bonuses. But that's because we've crammed so many pages into this, and you get way more content for your dollar. So that's kind of cool. This is a great gag. Lynne she loved puns, and she would always try and fit puns into her gags all the time. And so check out this one. This one's great. I'm going to read it to you. Colleen Smith, what a surprise! Mel, it's been ages. And this is Tabitha Jane, and she's 2 months old today. There you go, holding the baby. Oh, and something happened. We get a weird expression. He says something we can't hear. Weird expression. Ellie's not impressed. And she says, "How could you, John?" "Sorry, Elle, it just popped out." "What did Dad say to the Smiths?" And here's the gag. Get it? "Come to me, my Mel and Colleen's baby." All of that setup. I love it. All of that setup for silly pun. I love it. And she writes about that here very specifically, that she couldn't, like in this first panel, says she couldn't put Mel in Mel's name first and Colleen's name second, because then Mel and Colleen, you could hear where the pun was coming from. So she had to make sure she said Colleen first and then Mel. And then she threw us off by adding this Tabitha Jane in here. That's a red herring. Doesn't have anything to do with the pun. And it all comes together here. Very, very cool stuff. I love how she thinks. It's just a lot of fun. Okay, Lawrence makes an appearance here. He kind of gets, he comes in and out of the story every once in a while. He's Michael's best friend. In the previous volume, in volume 4, he had a significant story where he tells Michael that he's gay, and that's kind of the most significant character development we get out of Lawrence. Otherwise, he's just a constant, level-headed kid. Or friend. He's not a kid anymore in this strip. Look at all the detail. All of that wood lattice on that roller coaster, even in the background there. That's a lot of detail. So I hope that you will consider, if you haven't ever checked out For Better or For Worse, check this out here. If you are worried that maybe the family strip is not your thing, or you don't like kind of gag-a-day strips, I'd probably start with maybe, I would say volume 3, if you can find it. Volume 3 actually, for some reason, is a fairly hard one to find right now these days. Not sure why. The other ones are readily available. But volume 1 is very much a gag-a-day strip, before Lynne settled into her continuity storytelling, and then volume 2 is kind of a transitional one. Volume 3 is where I think it really picks up, and then volume 4 and 5 are excellent, probably my favorite volumes out of all the ones that will be published. So that's volume 5 of For Better or For Worse, the complete library. I hope that you enjoyed my walkthrough here, and let me turn off that other camera here. If you want to try and find any of these books, I would recommend checking out your local comic shop. Like I said, volume 3 is a little hard to find, so you're going to have to scour. But, you know, those books were bought. They were pre-ordered by comic shops all over the country through Diamond and such, so they have to be out there somewhere. So you need to call around to your local comic book shops, the ones that carry comic strip collections, and see if you can find a copy there. The print run wasn't any smaller than any of the other books, so I don't know why that one sold out. But this one is available, volume 5, So I definitely recommend checking this one out. One of the best stories in For Better For Worse is contained in this volume. And then the next volume should be coming out. Oh, let's take a, hold on. I want to show you what the cover for the next volume looks like, because it's down here in the back. Volume 6. I'm going to turn on this camera again. There it is. There's the cover to volume 6. Let's get some better light there. They're gathered in the kitchen eating some pizza. 1996 to 1999. We're going to enter the new millennium. This is some of the newest content that the Library of American Comics published. I don't think that there are any other books that gets as recent as 1999, and these books are going to go all the way to 2008. There are 9 volumes planned. Bob asks this question, how many volumes will there be total? There will be a total of 9 volumes. 3 for each decade. So we had 3 volumes were the 80s. These 3 volumes are the 90s, and then we're going to have 3 more volumes that will wrap up the beginning of the new millennium. And let me tell you, it's all going to be really, really exciting to have. You can see them on my shelf behind me here. To have all 9 volumes in a row is going to be very, very awesome. So February is when this next volume comes out. So I hope that you will mark a calendar. I hope that I can meet all my deadlines. And because there's still a lot of work to be done between now and when that book gets released. But yeah, so that's my show for today. Sorry about the technical glitches. We weren't able to talk with Wallace, and we weren't able to talk about Terry and the Pirates, but we're going to try and fix that during the week so that next Friday we can do exactly what we had planned. And Wallace, I want to give you a little teaser here, has an incredible library. His whole apartment is basically one giant library full of comics, full of hardcover editions of collected editions of comics of every kind and every genre. And he has a complete collection of the Library of American Comics. All 200 plus books that we've ever published, he has in his collection. So we're going to take a tour of his library as long as we can get our technology figured out there. So we'll be back next week, probably at this time again, 4 p.m. on a Friday afternoon for me. He lives in Nova Scotia, so it's 8 p.m. His time, but it's 7 p.m. on the East Coast. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. So thank you, everybody, for paying attention to me talking about For Better For Worse, and we'll see you next time.